Speaker.
Sorry. The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
I call Dr. David Clark.
Mr. Speaker, look, we will be supporting this bill, but we do it with significant reservation. In the committee stages, I moved an amendment to a motion put forward by Ria Bond from New Zealand First, which was an excellent amendment to ensure that this bill actually delivered on what it promised. It was a sensible amendment, and I believe that my amendment to the amendment made it even more sensible. Put in plain language, it was a small change to the legislation that would have ensured that the government does implement this bill as the language in the bill suggests. That the government makes sure that there is a single number for businesses to deal with government, so that when businesses come to deal with government, whether it be with the Immigration Department or with the ACC or with the IRD or with whoever they want to have to deal with, or might not want to have to deal with but do, they would have a single number that they could put forward and say, look, in my dealings with government, you'll find all of my information under this number. Here is the number. Now can we talk? That is what this bill purports to want to do. Unfortunately, from the very start, there have been doubts about whether the government can deliver on this. And so in the committee stages, that amendment was put forward to test the government's mettle, to say, is the government really committed to achieving this outcome of having a single number for business to deal with government? The amendment said that the government will put this into play in 2 years' time. The opportunity, of course, was there for the government to say, look, Mr. Clark, you're being a little unrealistic. Let's make it 3 years' time, or let's make it 4 years' time. But no, the government rejected it outright. It did not want a time frame around ensuring that this policy was in place. And so what we learned from that is that a lot of this is window dressing. The intention is good. The intention is good, that there should be a single number for business to have to deal with government. There is a lot of red tape for business, and it doesn't take a member very long in this parliament or very many visits to business to discover that there is a lot of frustration in dealing with government. Government talks a big game, but frequently is inflexible. It introduces red tape, and under this government we've seen changes around child support legislation that put additional burdens on employers. We've seen them try to introduce tax for car parks and other measures. We know that putting burdens on business is easy. Taking it off is hard in the modern world. We agree with the intention, but we share the doubts of the likes of Federated Farmers. Federated Farmers said that they were concerned that the list of agencies involved initially did not include WorkSafe, with whom of course they deal. It does not include Immigration New Zealand, with whom of course they deal. And they were concerned equally that local government might be considered to be brought in under the business number too. But no moves have been made in that regard. So we are disappointed on this side of the House that the government hasn't fully committed to this ideal. And we understand that behind the scenes, yes, there are some tensions with IRD because IRD are concerned about data security and the failures of the government in terms of privacy and information that is important to business and to individuals. We understand that. And yet it is the government's problem. It is the government's problem to solve. They are solely responsible for running government. They are the people who can commit resource, who can commit to talking with the officials to make sure that these problems are ironed out, to make sure that the system is simple, that businesses don't have to get tied up in red tape every time they come to government. But they don't seem willing to do it. And you have to ask why. You have to ask why, ultimately, Mr. Speaker. And it boils down, in my view, to the fact that this government is more concerned with tilting the playing field toward big business. They don't care about small business. We've seen year after year fewer small businesses created under this government than were created under the last Labor government. It seems pretty evident from the statistics that they are not concerned about the majority of business owners in New Zealand. They talk the talk, but they will not walk it. They will not deliver a bill that actually delivers on, they will not pass legislation that actually delivers on the promise in this bill. They won't even set a time frame They won't even say in 5 years' time there will be a single number that you have to deal with. We will commit to getting our software upgraded or whatever it takes to make sure that businesses have a simple, straightforward way into government. Instead, they say, we like the idea, we'll put it on the never never. That is what this bill achieves, Mr. Speaker. It will probably take a Labor government to come in and sort this out, dare I say, because I think it will still be a problem in a few years' time. And what is worse, Mr. Speaker, what is worse is that this will be an additional cost on government in the short term. That is something that business will be prepared to wear if we get to a single number in a reasonable period of time. But in the interim, businesses will be forced to take on yet another number. And this is something that was warned about in the regulatory impact statement that was put out by Treasury, that MB worked on, that was put out before the bill even got into the House. The officials knew. The officials knew the problem was there, but perhaps Stephen Joyce's ears were blocked. I do not know. I do not know why he did not hear this advice. I do not know why the government did not move behind the scenes to ensure that the processes would be in place to implement this legislation, to make sure the government could deliver on its promise to business, to make it easier to deal with government. Mr. Speaker, this is a lost opportunity, and we still hope that the government will find it within them to get there to make sure that there is a single business number within a reasonable frame of time. The Chartered Accountants of Australia and New Zealand, they told us in their submission that the benefits for business may be overstated, quote unquote, without prompt and broad integration by government agencies. Now, what prompt and broad means, I don't know. 2 years I put forward, the government could have said 3 years. But prompt, I think, means getting this done within 5 years, certainly. And I'll be interested in whether other government members can outline a time frame in which they expect this business number to come into effect, one that cannot be laughed down in the House. So in the meantime, businesses must collect another number, yet another number, to deal with government. So slow implementation across government will carry this cost to business. There is no way to avoid that. What could be avoided is this being put on the never never. The government can plan toward that. They can plan toward investing in their own infrastructure to make sure that they have the capacity to deliver on the promise of this bill eventually. And I look forward, I hope, in a future bill that comes to this House, some kind of indication as to how that's going to be achieved. It may be through the budget process, Mr. Speaker. All may be revealed. There may be a secret plan going on behind the scenes. There may be hamsters running in the wheels of power, generating a plan to deliver on this bill. I surely hope so, because right now, it comes nowhere near. It is only a promise at this stage. And the problem too is if businesses lose faith in the ability of the government ever to deliver on this, they will hold off getting that extra number. Businesses will wait, and critical mass will be hard to achieve within the government system also. Officials will be doing two tasks, dealing with the existing business number and with the new business number, Mr. Speaker. So if businesses hold off because they don't have faith the government can deliver on this, we have a greater problem still, Mr. Speaker. So I'm hopeful that the government is working on this behind the scenes to deliver in the budget a solution to the problem of the business number they are here creating. Because this is a government that's failing on every front with business. Let's face it, they set themselves in their glorious business growth agenda, they set themselves a target of getting exports to 40% of GDP. They haven't come close. They had it at 30%. It's going down. It's going down. It's projected to go down further. This is a government that is failing on every front. They tried to negotiate the TPP. They went off course. They failed to even ask for protections for our housing so that we could protect our economic sovereignty to make decisions in the national interest. This is a government that is off beam on economic issues. They are failing businesses, and here in the short term at least, they are adding more red tape to businesses with the promise that it will go in the longer term. I challenge this government opposite to put down a time frame in which this will be achieved and to stump up with the resources to achieve it, because without that, all we are doing here is putting an additional impost on government. It should be easy for business, an impost on business. It should be easy for business to deal with government. There is no excuse for this dilly-dallying, for this window dressing. The intention is good. We'll support the bill, but for goodness sake, we would like to see from the government resource and a plan to get us to the single number that is promised in this legislation.